Facebook Live.
Welcome to the 101, brought to you by Whiteside Chrysler Dodge Jeep. I'm Michael Morris. We're with Dr. Ryan Brown today. He has come back from vacation and he is doing rounds today, doing his own business. But we have a special guest today. We have Chimdi Chekwa in. Chimdi, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you because you contacted me on LinkedIn, which I will say 2 years ago, I used to come on the show and say, why do people use LinkedIn? But you know what? I have more people hit me up about LinkedIn these days. And you had mentioned to me that you had the restaurant, and I said, instead of us just going back and forth, let's tell the public about it. Let's get on the radio show. Let's get on Facebook Live and do it. So, number one, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, that LinkedIn thing, I used to not use it as much. Now that I'm not playing football anymore,
right.
I'm on LinkedIn a lot.
Well, let me back this up. So people should know that you did play for Ohio State, and you played in the NFL. So obviously, I'm sure you got a lot of LinkedIn requests because people are like, I just want a famous person on my LinkedIn, right?
Right.
So when you kind of break down, you leave Ohio State and you're playing in the NFL. What is your mindset when you get there? Because you are an entrepreneur now.
Mm-hmm.
But when you were in the NFL, what kind of gave you this, like, I'm going to have to do something after football. Where am I going to go with it?
Well, I went in understanding. I think Tressel did a good job of preparing us just for life in general. So I went in understanding that football was only going to last until 30s at best.
So somebody's running past you, and then you're like, this isn't for me.
Right. Right. There's a lot of life after football. So I always knew that football gave me a head start in terms of being able to be financially stable and stuff. So I wanted to make sure I was always building the other areas of my life out also. So being an entrepreneur was one of the things I was interested in doing.
Aren't you, this was told to me a long time ago when I was in sales for somebody, and I always thought you were part of an organization, kind of like a football team, basketball team. And I remember my boss saying, that cubicle out there is going to do $1 million. And he meant me sitting in that chair. You're sitting there with a bunch of millionaire people. I mean, even the lowest ranking guy is still making $300,000. He's going to do all right if he just hangs around. But did you kind of feel like you were your own business? Did you ever look at it that way? I know you're looking at it as you're part of a team, but did you ever look at it like, I am my own corporation?
Yes, I think that was kind of my approach throughout my playing career. I needed to build up myself individually to be able to create, kind of avenues of ways to bring in money, really.
So when you're doing this, are other guys on your team doing the same thing? Because I'm sure everybody's focused on what's at hand, but when the summer's here, and if you don't go to the Super Bowl, you got a lot more time, right? So you're thinking, what am I going to do with myself? I mean, did you see people kind of like, I'm going to buy car washes like a Lenny Dykstra or something, or did you say, I want to find my own avenue?
Yeah, so it's difficult when you're navigating through the NFL because really the biggest benefit that you will get is to work on your body, work on your craft, and get as much money as you can right away in the NFL. Right. But even if you do that, there's an opportunity that you still might not make it. You can still get injured. You can still end up not having a long career. So it's kind of like risk-reward. Do I focus all in on football and tackle that and hope that, things work out? Or do I try to focus in on football and still build those other areas? So I think what was important for me was just kind of learning, understanding, because the best way to really make money is to not lose the money that you currently have.
Well, that is the key. And the thing we talk about on the show all the time is a lot of people will say they won't start because they don't have the money. You had the opposite issue. It was you had the money, but what are you going to do? Because whatever you're going to do has to take you from, let's say you played to 20, 30 years old. You still need another 30 years on this planet where you got to make some money, right?
Yes.
So when your time's winding down and you realize it's time to start a business, you get into food. Right?
Yeah.
So one of the hardest things to do is to grow a restaurant, even one location. But you did this. Tell the story of how you kind of put this together, because it's really four kids that have been buddies have put this thing together.
Yeah. So part of it had to just feel right in my spirit. It had to feel right. So even coming out of college, I looked into restaurants, different concepts. I was interested in it. Fast forward through playing career. I got my MBA at University of Miami while I was playing for the Miami Dolphins. And
Do you throw up the U when you do that graduation? That good. I just wanted to see if you would sell out because you were down there. That's all right.
No, I still, they didn't like me out there because I was still all Ohio State.
Right.
But, you know, I stayed connected with 3 of my business partners all throughout the process. And we wanted to do something. And the first thing we looked at was franchising. We initially wanted to do a franchise, but then we kind of got a feel of the market and what we felt like Columbus needed, and we thought, you know, a good barbecue place would be successful.
You know, there's you're familiar with City Barbecue, obviously.
Yes.
That was kind of where that whole concept came from. Was when they started, there was a hole where it wasn't really barbecue. It was like you had Damon's, you had more the franchise, and there's nothing wrong with it, but you had the franchise corporation store, but you didn't have that kind of down home feel. When you're looking at this market, when you start in 2016, there really is only City Barbecue.
Yes.
Right? So it's an under marketed product. When you jump in, are you looking at them as competition, or you're looking at, we're going to take what we do and we're just going to accelerate that?
Not really looking at them as competition. I think City Barbecue has been successful. I think we kind of look at them as more of that franchise feel at this point.
Well, that's what they are now.
Yes, that's what they've grown to become. So for us, we're looking at, you know, just connecting with our community, where we put the location at, connecting with the community, doing catering, and providing just a really good barbecue for the people that we connect with.
Well, that's what I see a lot of through your website when I was reading about it. A lot of the articles that you guys have done, a lot of interviews, and a lot of it has been, some of it was, you're for black entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So I don't think that's something that could be ignored. When I'm reading this, I'm thinking, you know, obviously I'm not a young black entrepreneur. I'm old. But when I look at this, I say, that's got to be, you have to support your own community, right? And vice versa, they're going to come to you. But how do you build that? How do you build your own community?
I think one that's important to, and I'm big on really showing kids things that they may not see in their current community. So one of the things that went into us picking our first location, it was being in a community where we felt like it needed for black business owners to be there. So young individuals can come there and see, like, that's what I want to be like. And it's attainable. It's something that I've seen day after day. So that's very important to us. So that was the first thing. And really just making sure that we are connected with the people, with the churches that I go to New Salem, which is a church that's really close to our location. Connected with the nonprofits in the area, Habitat for Humanity, and different areas, making sure that we stay connected with them. One, it helps our business, and then two, it helps kind of our mission to make sure that we stay connected and that we're building with the individuals that are there.
Had you seen this in other communities? Because again, you really have traveled to the United States, whether you're playing football or not. On your off time, I'm sure you went to restaurants and kind of looked at, and there's nothing against a chain, but when you're starting your own thing and make your own culture, because that's what you're doing, there had to be some takeaways of something that you saw, because originally you're from New Orleans, you said.
Yes.
And then lived in Florida, but then you lived in Oakland, and then you lived in Miami. There had to be bits and pieces that had to make you feel like you were connected to that, right? So that's kind of what you're trying to establish here.
Yeah, and I think as professional athletes, a lot of us, what we try to do is once we get to that point where we reach the professional level, we try to go back to the community. I think it's just, one, going to Ohio State, playing on the trestle was something that was very important, that was stressed while I was playing there. And then two, is just something that we typically try to do, and that mindset hasn't changed moving forward. And to be honest, it's good for business also. To make sure that you're staying connected with the community is one thing, to do that because it's the right thing to do, but it also allows the community to feel more comfortable with you. Mm-hmm. Like, now we trust that you're putting out the best product. We trust that you're sourcing the best meats and the best, when you say that you're making fresh food, we believe you instead of you just, coming up with a product and putting it out there.
Oh, when they say, like, what is it? Always fresh, never frozen, and yet if I can order something, they gotta put it in the microwave.
Right.
So when you're taking these first steps, talk about how long from concept to actually opening the doors. What was that timeline?
So I think we came up with the idea maybe around January, and we opened in that September.
Wow, that's really fast.
It was fast, and it felt like it was happening fast. We came up with the idea, we're like, you know what? we should go do this. And then we're like, okay, what do we do? So then we start putting in the work. And
Wait. But I want to back to, don't just skip over that, because so you come up with the idea to have a restaurant.
Yes.
Or barbecue specific.
Barbecue specific.
Okay, so you have that idea.
Yes.
And then so that's in January, and you're like, we're launching this.
Yes.
Can any of you guys cook at this point?
No.
Perfect. So there's no stress. You guys are just going to open a restaurant in 9 months. Where do you get the concept? Because I've read about this, but people listening won't know this. You don't know how to cook, so how do you find the people that can produce quality food time and time again?
Well, one thing we did have was we had family that didn't know how to cook. And our family had recipes that we've been eating years after years. So one thing we did do, we put all our recipes on the table and said we're going to take the best ones. And then the second thing we did is we connected with restaurant owners and different chefs and different people who have been in the business for a long time. We shadowed them, we learned from them, and that helped build our entire strategy going into the restaurant.
Well, that's the coolest thing that you guys, because a lot of people will skip the step of asking the question of, can you show me something? And there's nothing, people in business are flattered if you want to learn from them, right?
Yes.
I'm sure the people that you asked were like, of course you can come. It's not like they're going to shut you down. If they do, I mean, let's hope they go out of business. But if they're willing to open their door, all you want to do is pick their brain and you're not trying to compete with them, but you're asking, show me your expertise. That is a really smart move.
Yeah, and just like when I said, like when I reached that success at football, I want to go back into the community. When these people reach their highest point as being a chef or a business owner, they also want to go back and help somebody out. But I think one thing that's big for them is a lot of people reach out, but a lot of people don't follow up on that. So I think if you're going to reach out, make sure that you keep reaching out, you keep going there, you keep showing up, and
well, you respect their time, right?
Yeah.
Everybody, especially as an entrepreneur, time is very important to all of us, right?
Right.
When you work for a corporation, you can take that 15-minute coffee break that turns into 30 minutes, and then you're not really doing anything.
Right.
And I'm not knocking it because I did it myself when I worked for
Facebook and Instagram.
Oh man, I was using their computer, their phone. I'm calling my dad. Like, I'm absolutely doing nothing right now. But when you're an entrepreneur, every second counts, right?
Yes.
So you have the concept, you shadow these guys, and then the location. You pick the location strategically for a reason.
Yeah, so our location, and I'm not saying this is the right thing to do. We probably should do a lot more.
You shouldn't say that on the radio. Always be confident about what you're saying. Just be like, this is the thing to do.
Well, our location was a little bit closer to our hearts. I think the neighborhood that we wanted to move into was one that was kind of similar to what we grew up in, and we kind of connected with that community. And we wanted to connect with that community. So that's why we put the restaurant in that location, being North Linden.
Right. And again, I think if people haven't looked at the development around that area, like if you Google your restaurant and look at the map, it's in that block is nice. So it's not like it's one of these.
It's not dangerous.
Well, no. But you've seen the thing where you've got like a pop-up trailer and somebody's selling like biscuits out of it, that kind of thing. It's not that. I mean, it's a nicer strip mall type of deal, which I think is really smart because you have a lot of foot traffic, right?
Yes.
But was that part of what you looked at, or was it more? I know you're very focused on the community, but it doesn't hurt that you have a Sprint store next to it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there has to be people in the area, right? So having a lot of traffic, a lot of people coming there during lunch, during dinner, we felt like we were comfortable with that area in terms of the amount of traffic we would get there.
Right. So when you're going to open that door, and the four of you, I've gotten mixed responses when I ask this question. So the four of you, you're going to open that day. What's it like the night before?
The night before opening.
Yeah. Do you sleep? Are you panicked, or are you just like, this doesn't bother me?
See, we benefit from playing a sport. So me and one of my other business partners, Brian Brown, they also played at Ohio State and played professional. So we benefit from the years and years of being able to deal with stressful nights before, night before the Rose Bowl.
I guess it doesn't get bigger than playing in college football. But it's different because you guys had teammates to rely on. So you didn't have. If you had an off game, there were other people to pick you up. If you have a restaurant, you have an off day. Everybody has an off day.
Yeah,
Right.
and that was the next thing I'm getting to is the team was, I think, the biggest help. My wife, Brian's wife, DeAndre's wife, Mike's wife, all of our wives, a lot of our family came and helped us support. We needed the help because, to be honest, we never opened up a restaurant before, so we just didn't know what we didn't know.
Right.
And it turned out well. A lot of people supported us, and that was big for us.
So when you have this open and you get a little, do you remember the first sale? Were you in the building for the first sale?
See, I wasn't there, so
Wow.
my wife was there, but
So she should have come, is what you're saying. She should have answered this question.
I was in training camp.
Oh, okay.
So I came down probably a week before opening. Was able to go through the process of everything. We still weren't prepared. Then I had to get on the flight and leave.
No wonder you weren't stressed.
So I turned it off. I'm in training camp. I'm stressed about training camp at that point.
Right.
So I kind of just turned it off, and everything worked out for the best. There was stuff that was not completed. There was part of the interior that was not done. But if you came in there and ate, you would never know.
Did you get any tech? I'm sure you didn't have your phone on you while you're working out and doing all that stuff, but you had to come back to about 20 different text messages, right?
Yeah, I got everybody said it was so from the public perspective, everything went smoothly.
Right. And that's all that matters.
Right, from our perspective, everything was.
If you look behind the curtain, everything could be on fire, but you got food out of that. Okay. So as you're going down the road with this, what is the thing that makes your restaurant different than any other barbecue place? And I'm really only talking about one because I can't think of another barbecue place anymore.
Yeah, I would start out, and I know every restaurant would say this, but man, our food is good. We have some good home cooked barbecue, and it's funny because sometimes it surprises me because it's my restaurant. So I'll go there, I'll eat. I'm like, man, this is some good food. But outside of that, man, I think one of the big things is that we make sure that our food is quality. We make sure it's quality food. We make sure that we're making this food fresh every day. That's important to us. One, because where we're at, we want to make sure that the people there are getting good quality barbecue, and then it just makes the food better.
Right.
It makes the entire experience better when you know that you're not just getting stuff kind of sent in, microwaved, and shipped out. When
you get into this fully, how do you know who? You mentioned your team, which is the wives and family members, but how do you pick? Because again, you're in a different situation where you've always played team sports, but somebody else gathered everybody up.
Right.
Now you and your three partners, you have to find somebody that is going to be in your community, wants to grow, but the product they're putting out there, that food represents everybody attached to it, right?
Yes.
How do you find those people?
It's hard. I think a lot of it is trial and error, because really at the end of the day, you don't truly know how good somebody's going to work for you until they do it.
Right.
And we've gone through a few people, but I think we got a good nucleus now that when we do need another person, we bring them in. Doesn't work out, we find somebody else.
Right.
But we have a good nucleus of employees that they really feel like they're part of the growth of the restaurant. They want the Pit to grow, and that's what we're looking for. You're looking for the individuals who are passionate about the growth of your business, just like you're passionate about.
Well, they have to buy in, right? I mean, you have to have the same belief. You can't just have a business and then just say, I'm just going to, these people are just cogs in a machine. They really, the customers will come. There's a restaurant that my daughter, who's 11, we've been going to the same place every single Monday for 3 years. It's not barbecue, so it's not like we're ignoring it. But we go there because of the people. I mean, the food is fantastic, but we order the same thing every time. It's not like we've sampled the whole menu. For 3 years, every Monday, if the food is consistent, but the people make the experience better, that's what you need in a restaurant, right? So you've got those kind of people.
Yes.
There are people that will come just because of who's serving it or who's working the counter, right?
Yeah. But
And it's not just you, because you guys are kind of a big deal, but at the end of the day, you're not going to be serving everybody.
Well, we did notice, though, when we first would interview or first would have interactions or the first day an employee would work, there's certain things that you notice that are not a big deal at the time, but you can kind of tell, like, this may be a problem later on.
You mean as far as how they handle their coworkers, how they handle customers?
Co-workers, paying attention to detail. Like there's certain things that if it happened one time, it's not a big deal. But when it happens in the beginning,
Right.
it's like a sign that later on. And I would be honest that I didn't really always notice those things. It was more my wife would be like, I don't really like the way she does it. And I'm like, that doesn't seem like a big deal. Right. Like, okay, just watch. And then next thing you know, a couple months later, we're like, yeah, that individual is becoming a problem. Well, my wife would be like, I told you
Right.
you in the beginning. So it's important just to pay attention. Individuals who, from the beginning, pay attention to details. You could tell how much they care about doing things right.
So you get out of the NFL, and now you are head of HR. I'm sure you had to learn to cook. You've had to take on so many different roles.
Yeah.
What's the role you like the most?
The role I like the most, I think, and I'm not really a extrovert. I've always been more of an introvert.
You're silky smooth, is what you're saying.
But I think what I like the most is really connecting with people. So when we do caterings for events, and we can supply the food, it feels good to supply the food and for people to just enjoy it. I think that's where I get the most joy from, is being able to serve the food and for people to enjoy it, and be able to ask them how does it taste, and connect with them and just make people happy in that sense.
Do you kind of sit back and watch, or because I'm sure a lot of people will say, I know that guy from somewhere, or do you tell them who you are? Because it's got to be hard to observe when people are eating it. You want to see their real response, right? Yeah. I'm sure, like, when Gordon Ramsay goes to a restaurant, they go, I know who that guy is. So this food is either going to be really bad or it's going to be really good. But in that situation, you kind of want to take it in, right? You want to see what's the real response. If they don't know who I am or that I own the place, what is their real response to my food?
Yeah, interestingly enough, a lot of people don't even know that I own the restaurant, or they don't know who I am. Right? They just trying to come to eat barbecue, and we supply catering. A lot of people that come to the catering event, they don't know. They just know that there's a restaurant that's supplying food. So a lot of times it's completely separate from me.
That's cool.
Which is cool to see.
So you can be sneaky about it.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the thing about it that you like the least?
What I like
about being an entrepreneur and owning a restaurant. I can name 10 things I don't like about being an entrepreneur, but there's always that one thing I'm like, yeah, but I really enjoy that.
What I like the least is I can never really disconnect. I can never turn it off. If I go work at a place, I can, after 5 o'clock, I can just go home and I can turn it off. I can't turn this one off. Like 12 a.m., I might wake up and like, did we lock the door? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta come. I can never ever turn it off. And it kind of feels like football. Like football, until the off season, like I really could never turn it off. I'm always worried about my body. I'm always worried about. And I thought once I got done playing football, then that's over with. But no, it's not.
I find it interesting that you say that, because the question I want to ask is, are you waking up thinking about it because you're like not enjoying it, or you're just trying to be too perfect about it?
I think it's trying to be too perfect. Always trying to figure out what else can you do to get better. And it's kind of always been in football, that's always been my mentality. What can we do to get better? So always thinking about that. It's something I enjoy to do, but at the same time, I got other responsibilities. I have a daughter.
And you got 3
family.
partners.
I got 3 partners. So sometimes you have to split up that responsibility, make sure that you're being very efficient, doing something maybe more specific, and then also being able to step back and enjoy your life and get back to things that you need to do.
Well, that's the toughest thing, and a lot of people that we have on, again, we've been doing the show almost like 2.5 years, and everybody, I'm the worst person to ask about work-life balance, because I believe I work probably like 90% of the time. The other time I'm with my daughter.
Yeah.
But when I'm with my daughter, we shut it all off. But it doesn't mean I can shut off like what you just said. You're thinking about things that you need to get done or how to get better. What I like is people that are, I've been doing this about 9 years. People that are just in that wheel, you can see that they are really like amped. They are so excited about everything they're doing. But it's cool that to remember what it was like to wake up at midnight like, oh my God, I forgot to call that person, or I forgot to do this. But you don't dread it. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
Like, you look forward to it because it's yours. It's you and your partners. I'm sure they do the same thing, but it's like you want to get better every single day.
Yeah, and another thing is, over time, operations start to flow a little smoother. It becomes more, you create a system that's solid enough to run, and now you're just adding to that system, and then it allows you to free up your mind enough to do other things, or at least to be able to, step away at times.
Yeah, to sleep without having to drink NyQuil. I get it.
Yeah.
Do me a favor before we cut the break. Let people know how they can find you on the web, Facebook. Let them know.
So, Pit BBQ Grill, our website is thepitcolumbus.com. We're on Facebook as Pit Columbus. Also on Instagram and Twitter as Pit BBQ. And our location is in Northern Light Shopping Center. The address is 3545 Cleveland Avenue.
We're going to go to break, and when we come back, you give me so much information, but now I have a lot more questions.
Okay.
You're listening to the 101 brought to you by Whiteside Chrysler Dodge Jeep. We'll be right back. You're doing a great job.
Thanks.
That we just need to take that break. So I'm going to come back. I want to talk about the hashtag Everyday Cookout. You guys still using that?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about social media. And advice for people starting their own business. Don't say get in the NFL.
Don't say get in the NFL.
Feeling good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, advice for starting your own business. Be a professional athlete and have a lot of money.
Make a lot of money and then start a barbecue.
You have one location?
One location. So
Northern
far.
Lights?
Gonna have
And right up the road from there is Tarita's Pizza. Great pizza.
Oh,
joint.
yeah?
Tweet us.
Yeah, up the road near Cook and Cleveland Avenue.
Okay.
It's been there at the sausage and mushroom pizza, sausage
I
pizza,
gotta try it out.
to
I've
die
never been.
for. It's somebody's old Italian grandmother's recipe. I used to live on the north end near Morse and Carl for
Okay.
21 years, so I would go over to Tarita's when I grew up like 2 miles this way in this neighborhood, but which is where I'm from. But living there for 21 years, and I found out about that pizza joint. I said, "Wow, this is good." So now that I know where your barbecue joint is, Northern Lights.
I find out that a lot of people used to live in Linden area.
Yeah.
A lot of people used to live there.
Things.
I just lived near the old Northland High School. I didn't live too far
Northland,
from there.
yeah.
Northland, DeSales, that area for 21 years. But I've worked here for 35 years and grew up, like I said, 2 miles that way here. And
It's the
I
real
like to call
estate
up
issue.
your Arlington.
If where they build the malls, they don't build enough like housing, so they'll build
Yeah.
apartments. So what happens is if those malls go away, they're just empty.
And
buildings,
Northland
then people
Mall,
move
when
away.
I moved there, Northland Mall was thriving. Well, it was on the downslide, and then it closed, and now there's all sorts of new development out there near Morse and Carl.
Spot, like when I was a kid, like 89, 90. That
Northland
was like the place
Mall,
to go.
Westland Mall were real big. City Center back then, you go downtown.
City
Yep.
Center screwed the whole thing up. They put all the shopping in the middle of downtown,
Yeah.
and then drove everything away. And then people were like, "I don't want to go downtown," so they went back.
I want to go to
suburbs.
Tuttle, I want to go to Polaris, and now Easton.
Or that thing in Delaware, whatever the hell that is.
Whatever that's going to be.
I
Exactly.
want to talk
I don't
food
know.
when we get back. So I want to talk about the menu, and I want you to go into that. And but I'm going to
And my
start
mouth
with
is going to
everyday
water
cooking.
if you talk about the menu.
I know. I was thinking at lunchtime we're having.
You
a
probably
guy
got
talking
what?
about barbecue.
Brisket, pulled pork. You got everything. Sounds delicious.
My number one seller is rib tips, though.
The rib tips. You got
Yeah.
burn ends?
We don't have burn ends, no.
Don't have burn ends, but
We
rib
figured-
tips,
we
big
figured
seller.
we wouldn't do rib tips and burn ends.
Do one or the other.
Yeah.
And you got for sides things like what? Baked beans, macaroni and cheese.
Baked beans, mac and cheese.
Is that the grandma's?
collard greens.
Or what was the grandma's?
Greens.
Um,
You got my mama's sweet
Yeah.
potato pie. That's
Mildred's mac and cheese. That's
Yeah.
one
Mildred's
part of
mac
his
and cheese?
Grandmother. Yeah.
I was reading about that. And I was like, "Damn."
I bet that's killer mac and cheese.
Oh, we'll have him back,
That's
but
good.
only if he
No.
brings food.
Too bad it's dairy.
Jim, sometimes you
I
gotta
know.
die. Somewhere.
Sometimes you
It's
gotta,
mac and
get
cheese.
hurt and go to the hospital. Eating dairy.
All right, you ready, Jimmy?
Yep, we ready to roll?
Yep. Welcome back to the 101, brought to you by Whiteside Chrysler Dodge Jeep. And for once, I haven't messed that up yet. I will do it on the way out, though. Still sitting here with Chimdi Chekwa from the Pit BBQ Grill. I want to talk about something. You have this thing called hashtag Everyday Cookout. What's that mean?
Everyday cookout, it means every day we're out there smoking meats and getting that food tasting good. We started that when we first opened up. Rain, sleet, or snow, cooking out. Doesn't
Like
matter.
the Postal Service, you see. No matter what's happening, you're still delivering.
I feel like one of those days this year, they did not deliver mail. It was like a level 2.
But you guys still made
We
stuff?
still cooked out.
There
we
you
still
go.
did it. So.
There you go. My question about that is, you guys have to. This is not frozen. You gotta plan the day before for the next day, right?
Yes.
Talk about the food that you serve in your restaurant, because I went through the website and looked at it. And I saw some of the pictures, and the reviews are great, but I don't think people understand what you have, because a lot of people will say barbecue, oh, it's just ribs or brisket.
Yeah.
It has nothing. That's not covering the gamut of what you do, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have a pulled pork that it takes us 8 hours to smoke and get that ready to go. We have rib tips, pulled pork. We also kind of switch it up a little bit. We got some fried wings, barbecue wings that we do also for the chicken lovers out there. And we have some really good sides. And the thing about our sides is it's all a recipe that's pulled from one of our family members, typically grandmothers.
Right.
So we have some really good collard greens that it's about another 8-hour process that we to make those. And then we have our Mildred's mac and cheese, which is really good. We use 5 cheeses. So if you are a cheese lover,
you're not gonna get cheese. When you coming up with the menu, so you got the 4 of you, and then you're kind of shadowing people. But this really is everybody's grandma's best of the best, right?
Yes.
How did you make a decision on what was going to go on the menu? And I asked that because when City BBQ started, those guys, I mean, they literally started kind of like you did.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the backyard with them, and they had so many things that they could put on this menu. And at one time they had onion rings. I'm telling you right now, greatest onion rings on the planet. They never put them on the menu, any of that, because there just wasn't room. How did you make a decision on what's going on? Because I'm sure there's some grandma saying my mac and cheese is better, or somebody saying, I think this should be on the menu. How do you make that decision? Because you have so many things there.
Yeah, well, you have to be prepared to hurt somebody's grandmother's feelings. One,
that's why you have a wife. Then she can say, "I made the call."
The other thing, it's a difficult thing, and since we've opened, we've taken stuff off the menu and considered adding new things, because one thing is ultimately the consumers tell you what they want. So if they're not buying this, then we're just going to take it off and add something else. But that was a difficult process. So we had a lot of stuff also. We tasted and tried it. We wanted to make sure we had a good mixture. So we have collard greens because we wanted a veggie. Also like a kale slaw that we do because kale is a very healthy leafy green, and the way the world is moving, people are paying attention to what they're putting inside their body. So we wanted to make sure that we have offerings that support what people want to eat.
That's a good thing that you just said, because there are a lot of people, anytime you look on Instagram, and everybody on Instagram's a model, by the way, just so you know.
I too am an Instagram model.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that. But when you're seeing this stuff, you're seeing the things that people are eating. And I know that nobody is eating a bag of kale for lunch, breakfast, dinner. How are you catering to your community? Because I'm sure there's the mix of an older group that, like, they're not trying to have six-pack abs. They want to eat quality food. But then you have a younger group that it might be their one time out a week to kind of gorge, like, or what do you call that? When you're going to break your diet. Whatever word I can't think of. But when you're going to... Cheat day. So if they're going to come out, like, you have to kind of balance that, right? Because you have to know the demographics of where you're at and what people are going to demand.
Yeah, it's important. So we offer turkey ribs. And the primary reason, and I didn't even know about turkey ribs until the year we opened.
I didn't know until you just said it.
Well, the primary reason is because there are individuals in that community that want to eat barbecue, but they don't want to eat pork. And we have a lot of pork options. We did add the chicken, but we said, let's offer these turkey ribs, which may take the place of something else we might want to put on the menu, so that we have offerings for these individuals. And the biggest thing is to make sure that we have, not doing too much, but doing enough that we get the biggest portion of the population. So the individual who wants to eat quality food that sometimes, at times might want to be somewhat healthy, but at the same time, we want to make sure it's at an affordable price, and it's that finding that mixture where you can get the most people.
Right. Yeah. How would you describe your barbecue versus, some people will say it's the Kansas City style. They'll say this is the, if you go to Florida, it's a different style. Alabama, I don't know why those people even try to barbecue, but how do you guys classify what your barbecue style is?
Yeah, I would say is because 3 of my partners are from Cleveland. So all they know when it
Well,
comes
it's a good
to
thing they
barbecue,
moved here. They got out of Cleveland.
all they know in terms of barbecue is kind of the Cleveland, what they came up. So I had to bring the southern.
Well, that was
twist
my
to it.
question. Was because you are from the South, you had to kind of come in and go. You guys have no taste buds. So this is the way this should be, right?
Yeah. Well, what we did is we made a mixture. So kind of like that southern feel, but also, they have in Cleveland they have these things called Polish boys that a lot of them grew up on. So we're like, you know what, we're gonna have to put a Polish boy on the menu, a Polish boy and a Polish girl. And if you don't know what a Polish boy is, it's a all beef Polish sausage with fries, coleslaw, barbecue sauce, and then a Polish girl you add pulled pork to it.
Yeah, those are really good. I'm not gonna knock Cleveland for that, but. The guys that I knew that would go to when they were doctors. They were surgeons that was their hobby. And they would go to Kansas City to win these big awards and then come back here.
Yeah.
But they made it the Kansas City style, but they were doing it here. When you go to Kansas City, everybody's making it the exact same way, so you really can't stick out.
Right.
You're sticking out because you're kind of doing a mix of the Northern Ohio style plus, the Southern style.
Yes.
Those guys are kind of dominating those conversations because the three of them are from up north. So,
I have a big voice, so it evens out for us.
So when people come to you and if they come up to the counter and if they're looking for something specific, how's your staff prepared to answer what it is?
Well, we do a good job of just letting them, making sure that they explain what we offer. Like for instance, our mac and cheese is good. And you may come in there looking for something specific, but you got to try the mac and cheese, even if you just taste it.
That's the thing you hang your hat on? So the one thing, if somebody said, what's the one thing I got to have, it'd be your mac and cheese.
I always hate the
I
one thing
know
question. Everybody wants the one thing question.
This is why I'm asking. In terms of marketing,
yes.
If you look at Apple, what does the thing that Apple does better than anybody else is it's not about the product. It's about what you feel about the product, right? So everybody has their thing they hang their hat on. A lot of times their sides are better than their mains. Not that that's your case, but if there's one thing I had to try before I leave this earth, would it be that mac and cheese or would it be your brisket?
If you were to die tomorrow.
Yeah. Or later today, because I might be in your area. If I'm in Linden, I might go there.
I'm a barbecue restaurant, so I hate choosing the side.
I'll give you a 1A and a 1B.
Okay. So 1A, I would say mac and cheese.
Okay.
Because we just put so much effort into that mac and cheese. 1B, I would say the pulled pork. A lot of people say brisket and stuff, but I would say pulled pork. We do a really good pulled pork, and when you put the coleslaw on the pulled pork and make the sandwich, that sets it.
That's got to be from the South because in the North they want to put meat on top of meat. In the South they want to put something cold on something hot.
Exactly.
Which is the way I prefer it. You had talked about so when we're talking about this everyday cookout, social media is, again, you're an Instagram model, just like myself, and when you're putting this out there, what is it, Rachel, I don't know why you're laughing. When you're putting that out there, what's the response you're getting? You're getting people following because they just like to look at pictures of food, or they want to see, what are they looking for?
I think people respond even better to the videos. So we need to get more videos out there. One,
video is key, especially in what you're doing. That's one of the things that we push all the time. Like we're doing this on Facebook Live, so that we have this video, but people have to see it, right?
Yes, they definitely have to see it. They have to see the food. They have to see who's making the food, who's producing. They want to see us, making sure that they get to know the pit. They want to get to know us, and that's what we, at least moving forward, we want to make sure we do a better job focusing on that.
Who is in charge of that?
In charge of social media?
That might be a trick question. I'm saying everybody, you always have to be careful about what you do on social media, right? As a person, but especially as a business. Is there somebody that kind of oversees that?
Yeah. So my wife, she got her degree in communications, master's degree in communications. She runs the social media for Delaware County Sheriff's Office right now.
Plug for the Delaware County Sheriff's.
Plug for the Delaware County Sheriff's Office. So ultimately, she's in charge. I mean, I'm kind of in charge of it because it's our business.
When she lets you?
Well, yeah, when it comes down to it, she's the one that takes charge of it.
Right. So as far as the restaurant goes, we were just kind of talking in the hallway because we've never met. We've just had 10,000 messages on LinkedIn. What is your goal for the Pit? I mean, you've kind of said that you were looking at opening a second one because obviously this market needs more barbecue.
Yes.
How do you go about doing that? Do you do the same thing in January? Let's just open one in September?
Partly. But the other thing is catering. Big thing for us, and that's what we're pushing right now, is we want to supply all the corporations that have catered lunches, catered events. We want to do weddings. We want to supply the catering. Right now, I think probably City Barbecue does a good job of it right now. But our food catered is very, very good. It's amazing. Rib tips in that pan. It's just so good. I'm telling you, I surprise myself every time I taste it. I'm like, man, this is my restaurant. This is crazy.
What got you into the catering aspect of things? You just thought people might not come to us, so we'll go to them?
Yeah, so, I mean, after we're about going on our third year in, so we kind of know what the flow is of people coming to the restaurant. So at this point, for those who can't make it over there, because we get social media engagement from people who are not in the Linden area. A lot of times they're not coming to the restaurant, but they're commenting like, "Ooh, I would love to have that." And you can have it. You can do one. You can do Uber Eats or get it delivered if you don't want to take that drive.
That's another
you
thing.
can come on the weekend.
Yeah.
Or you know what? That next graduation you have, your daughter, your son graduates or something like that. Just order the Pit, and we also have a food truck, so we'll be out there also.
Have you gone to those food truck events?
So we haven't done any food. So we got a food truck last year. By the time we got it, we kind of were not signed up for any of the food truck events. We did go to one in Kenton, Ohio. I think Kenton is how you say it, which was a really good one. But primarily, we've gone to different places. We'll go to the Budweiser plant and do lunches there. We'll go to the zoo. We went to the zoo 5 times this past year, which was always a good time going to the zoo. And those people love it. Out there in Powell, they love the food. They're not always going to get out to Linden,
right?
But that's their opportunity to try.
Well, that's a cool thing to do if you're able to take food on the go. And I think a lot of restaurants, again, the bigger they are, the harder they're not mobile. Yeah. You're mobile at this point. That's almost like having a whole nother business.
Yes,
because it's not just making the food. It is, I got to get it there on time. I got to make sure there's utensils in there. If you're doing a wedding, that's a whole nother thing.
Yes.
You've done weddings there
yes,
before?
we have.
Is there more pressure on you there than in the restaurant? Because that's the special day. I guarantee your wife probably is all over that wedding stuff. I guarantee it.
I would say, actually, for catering and for weddings and stuff, I feel like it's a little bit easier because you know everything. It's so scheduled out. We're going to be here at this time. The food's going to get done at this time. We're going to serve this many people. We're going to have this plated. It's a better flow than when you're planning for the restaurant and then you get food prepared, you expect this many people, and then boom. Even though I probably should have watched the weather a couple days before, the snow hits and
that's what I'm saying. There's so many different factors, and if you're late by 20 minutes, you're stressing out a lot of people, right?
Yes.
So you're taking on that. I don't want to say burden, but that's added responsibility. I like that you're not shying away from it because a lot of people don't want to do that kind of catering because of that.
Yeah, we love catering though. Catering, I think we like catering more than the restaurant because the restaurant has different flows. Some days it snows outside.
Or you got dead hours.
Yeah,
where people went to lunch and then they're coming back and you're open until 3 and no one's walked in.
But catering's I don't know, maybe it's my mindset. It's kind of it's an event, It's
catering's a road game.
Right, it's a game, right? Yeah. It's a away game. So let's focus in on this catering. We got 3-hour window. We're gonna go out there. We're gonna serve these people. We're gonna get out. And it's gonna be a success. And then after they taste the food, we always get good responses. We get to talk to the individuals. We get to congratulate people for getting married and stuff. So it's just I guess it's so much fun that we just enjoy it.
Well, it's also, again, catering is you're being invited into their home or their office or whatever. That's building that community for you as well.
Yes.
What I think is cool, though, is reading through your stuff and how attached you are to the people, not just that work with you and your partners, but everybody in that community. You want to be of service to them as well, right?
Yes.
Where does that come from?
I don't know. That's a good question. It's just you saying what?
Well, I mean, it has to be kind of instilled in you because you could have picked any place to build that. You could have picked the Polaris Parkway area. You could have picked Delaware. You picked that location for a reason.
Yeah.
There has to be something that you guys want to do. Like you said, you want kids to see what's possible.
Yeah.
But there's a point when people are in a business and they're like, I'm here to make money. You're going to make money, but you're also going to provide a role model for these people, right? And to let them know you can also own a business and do these things just like we did.
Yeah, and part of it is to start a business, you have to be all in. Like, you have to really want to do it. And part of what makes us really want to do it is that aspect of it. You know, obviously we want to make money. We really want to make money also, but that makes it more closer to us, makes us more passionate about it, and it allows us to from day to day to be always focused in on those things. Last year I was doing mentorship at the nearby high school, Mifflin High School, and to be able to go in there and mentor a group of seniors and say I own a business just right there that a lot of them knew about, they didn't even know I was the owner of, was good to see, because now they're trying to figure out, okay, what do I need to do to be a business owner? I think that's just something that we're passionate about, so it makes us work even harder for the business. Because now if we not successful, then it's like, damn, we just let these people
now
down.
we have no future. Chimdi came in and said we could do this, and we can't because he failed. Well, I think about Derek Thomas, that played for the Chiefs. He had this foundation where he would I forget what it was called, like 3rd and 7 or whatever it might have been called, but it was to benefit kids, kind of like you said, to mentor kids at a school. And there was a kid that he actually became a judge because Derek Thomas told him he could do it. Yeah. At like 11 years old. So he really was like, oh, I can do it because you told me so. And Derek Thomas didn't even realize until the kid was like 17, 18 years old that he was already taking those steps. That's the kind of mentorship thing that's got to pay off. And you're right around the corner, right?
Yeah, and I had a pastor in Oakland who always told the kids, he always say a fountain doesn't rise higher than its source. And it's one of those things where, like, if I never hear it, if I never see it, if it's never something that I'm been accustomed to, then how can I even have the dream or goal to attain it? You know, right. So it's just big, and it's something kind of small, like the restaurant that's always right there, but it's just a reality that they don't see it. Like, it's not ever there, so it's important.
Well, it's like you said, you picked that spot for a reason, and the reason might have been because it was there or because it was by your church or whatever it might have been, but you're giving people something to point at and say, I can do the same thing, which is really cool because you could put it anywhere else. Yeah. What's the coolest thing that's happened while you've had that restaurant? Like, what's the thing that stands out and you're like, I'm so fortunate I was here to witness that or be a part of that?
The coolest thing. So we've had individuals come to the restaurant. So I don't know if you're familiar with Ricky Smiley, but he's like
I saw the pictures on your website.
So not too long after we were open, and I wasn't fortunate enough to be there. I was still playing. But he came by. We had the East High School band come by, and those kids played out in the parking lot. They like blocked the parking lot. He drove his bus in. I think that might have been one of the cooler things to see, because we're coming into this thing like we want to be a part of the community. We want to be the barbecue restaurant of the community, and for all the community to come out to see that, and Ricky Smiley to come there, I thought that was pretty cool.
You guys do a good job on your website of showing the things that have happened in the past, because that's how I learned more about you than any emails we were exchanging. It was like, I kept looking at it, I'm like, how did you guys get this so fast? Yeah. And it seems like the responses of people that go to your restaurant, like, they love it. Like, they're ranting and raving, and they know exactly what the product is called, which is why I forgot the mac and cheese thing. I was trying to think of the name because it was on there, but the day that was probably the hardest for you, what would that be? As an entrepreneur, not just running a restaurant, but you have this place open. What's the roughest day you had?
So many rough days in the restaurant business. I'm trying to think what's the roughest day.
Well, you picked a really tough thing to be an entrepreneur in, because the majority, 68% of them go out of business in the first year because you don't know what you're doing, right? Yeah. No, I don't mean you. I just mean in general. Everybody wants to own a restaurant. When I see it on TV, I think I could do that. Right. And then I go in there, I'm like, I don't even know where I would put the forks, right? You went in even knowing less than I did, and you're successful and you're growing, right? So there had to be a lot of rough days. I'm not saying like this is a bad thing. I want people to realize you're going to get kicked in your teeth a few times before you get to win.
A lot of times.
Yeah.
So I would say probably the roughest day was first year. I told you about the Ricky Smiley thing. We had a lot of hype. We were doing good. And we had no real predictive, we had no real prediction of what the winter was going to be like, at least in year one. So first year we got to the winter, and we were getting people coming to the restaurant from all different places. And the winter came, and those people stopped coming. So I think the toughest day was when I realized, man, we are struggling right now. So we have to figure stuff out. We may have to reduce employee hours. We may have to, us as four owners are going to have to go in there and work and replace the employees. For
I saw your eyes get really big. You're like, we might have to do this.
Yeah, and there was times where I had to, I'm just coming off a plane in the NFL. I got injured, wasn't able to play, so I came home, and I'm like, man, I'm going to have to go work. Like, not just go in there for 3 hours and take orders. I mean, I'm going to have to go in there.
Just point fingers. Hey, what's up? Good to see you. Thanks for coming.
I'm going to have to go in there and get this smoked turkey, put it in a pot, put the greens in there. I'm going to have to go in there and fry some chicken. I'm going to have to go in there and prepare the pulled pork. Like, I need to go there and work from morning all the way until it's over with. And, I mean, it was something I was willing to do. I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be until I actually did it.
But it makes you respect what your employees are going through, right?
Exactly.
Because you're doing the same thing they're doing.
Yeah, and it was necessary. One, it was necessary for me to be there and know that every detail of the operation, and it was necessary for us to just continue to operate.
Right. I want to ask you one more thing before we leave today. There are people that listen to this show or watch it on Facebook. If you could leave them with something as an entrepreneur, I mean, if they're looking for your guidance, what's the one thing that you would tell them about starting their own business, whether it's a restaurant or anything else?
I think the biggest thing is probably the discipline, attention to detail, and not just discipline in doing what you're supposed to do, but doing your best to anticipate what's going to come next. So prepare for the next 6 months, prepare for the next year, and make sure your preparation is detailed, because you don't really know what's coming next, right? So at least if you're preparing for what's next, when you get hit with a curveball, you have prepared enough to be able to maneuver. I think like I mentioned that first year, we weren't really preparing too much far ahead. Like, we were preparing in our head, we were preparing for the success that we expected. We weren't preparing for the potential success, the potential of not reaching that success. So I think that's one of the biggest things is make sure that you're disciplined, but not just disciplined at that moment, being disciplined for what you are anticipating could come, whether or not it's more success or potential non-success. I don't like to say failure, but yeah.
Well, you don't really fail unless you quit, right? That's the only time you quit or you die. That's the only time that you fail to complete it. But as long as you keep moving ahead, I always tell people, when you're struggling, you just can't stop. Like, it might suck, but I don't care if you're walking through a swamp. Eventually, you're going to run out of swamp, right? And you're going to get out. What's cool about what you were saying is you guys open in September, everything's killing it, and then the winter comes. Mm-hmm. But that's the biggest thing is you've got to adapt. So year 2, you knew that hole was coming, so you could prepare.
Exactly.
You didn't fail then. You just didn't know what you're up against. So, again, I think that's sage advice, because as long as you don't stop, you'll learn along the way. But like you said, you're going to get kicked a lot.
That's the big thing. It's all learning experiences. So all those many failures are all learning experiences, and you need to make sure that you take those learning experiences, and that helps you prepare for the future.
Right. So,
boom, we struggled that winter. Okay, let's get prepared for the next winter right now.
Right.
So by the time winter comes, like Game of Thrones, winter is coming. By the time it comes,
that's right. You can't prepare once it's here. Chimdi, tell them again, how can they find you on whether it's social media or find your website, because we're running out of time here, but I want people can go today, right? They can go today. You're open today.
You go today. Our website is thepitcolumbus.com, or on Facebook with The Pit Columbus, and also on Instagram and Twitter as Pit BBQ. Follow us, tweet at us, like our pictures, all that good stuff.
And hashtag Everyday Cookout.
Hashtag Everyday Cookout.
All right. Well, Chimdi, thank you for coming in. This was awesome. You've been listening to 101 brought to you by Whiteside Chrysler Dodge Jeep. I didn't mess it up this week, and we'll see you next week.